Hi everyone, welcome to El Diálogo Latino. Today, please join me in welcoming the Director of the Office of Hispanic, Latino, and Multicultural Resources of Anne Arundel County, Alison Flores. Alison, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for the invitation, Jason.
To kind of get ourselves started here a little bit, tell us a little bit more about how you got to this role in the community.
Well, I started working in local government almost 10 years ago, and I had the opportunity to start working with the first Latina county council member in Prince George's County. And so I joined her team, and I was there for almost 6 years. I then had the opportunity to start working with the Prince George's County executive, and I was there with her for some time, and then in the agency. And it's sort of one of those things where I never thought I would be working in government because I didn't personally grow up connected to government services. But by the chance of life, I had an opportunity, and I found my purpose with helping others, and I have found that very rewarding.
And in that journey in the political and community affairs space, what were some of the challenges that you saw, that you faced as a Latina in that space?
Well, I would say that even from growing up, there weren't a lot of Latina mentors or leaders that I could look up to, or folks that I felt connected to my story. And so I felt like I was constantly by myself. And so I would say that was one of my challenges, is getting connected to others, and learning from them on sort of guiding the path, right? Oftentimes, if our parents didn't, go to school and we got a higher education and then we start a job, our worlds are kind of different. We may have similar stories and like values and those things that we carry with us, but we may not know how to put together a resume or how to prepare for an interview or how you show up in certain spaces. And so that's helped me, help guide me.
Congratulations on all the great work that has led you to this point in your career. Now, kind of moving to the current point, in this role, what is it exactly that you do for Anne Arundel?
So our office, the Office of Hispanic, Latino, and Multicultural Resources, was created by County Executive Stuart Pittman at the beginning of this year. And so we are a brand new office. And so with that, we were charged with creating our mission and building out a structure. And our structure is focused on creating an infrastructure for immigrant inclusion. And so as you know, unfortunately at the federal level, there isn't a centralized immigrant integration policy or program in place. And so local jurisdictions like the state or county or municipal government are left to create that structure or not to create that structure. But we know that it's really important because government is the safety net for our most vulnerable communities. And so we focus on connecting our immigrant community to resources, learning what they need, and then taking that back to our government partners and creating that. And so it's so exciting, the work. I feel like I'm living the dream, getting to do things that are so rewarding and I feel so connected to as well.
That's wonderful. So as pioneers, essentially, of this work in Anne Arundel, what are some of the main things that you see with the Latino and Hispanic community there that really draw your attention, as you're sort of developing this for Anne Arundel?
Well, Latinos in Anne Arundel County, based on the last census in 2020, make up approximately 9.8% of the population. So that's approximately 62,000 Latino residents.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a growing population, and we've grown rapidly in Anne Arundel County, similar to other jurisdictions. We also know that because 2020 was the pandemic, that it probably is severely undercounted, and so there could be communities that weren't counted. But essentially, the community in Anne Arundel County, the Latino community, is very resilient and vibrant. I think one of the beautiful things to see is everyone's so proud of their culture, and really carries that with them and really helps another Latino out. And I think that's a beautiful thing, to have that pride in where you come from, and then also to know that you can help someone else, and that doesn't take away from you. So that sense of community is really strong in Anne Arundel County. In terms of challenges and needs, I think it's very similar to other trends that you see in counties like Montgomery County, Prince George's County, and Baltimore City, the need for additional information on the services that exist. So you have residents who have been here for 30 plus years, and then you have sort of newer residents, newer waves of residents. And both can be disconnected at times from those government services.
And how do you really bridge this connection between, both community members that have been here for 30 plus years and, community members that just got here? How do you, make sure that they're both, having these pioneer services provided to them?
Well, we are a big believer in the office of going where the people are. And so we'll go to churches, we'll go to your school, your back to school meeting, we'll go just about anywhere, to be quite frank, to connect with folks, because we know that we can't expect people to come out to where we are sometimes in Annapolis because there isn't transportation, the hours are during working hours, and people have one or two jobs. So we ensure that we're accessible and visible in the community, and we can be that bridge. So our office doesn't have direct services at the moment, but we certainly can connect you with the folks in the county who do have those services and ensure you don't go into the abyss, right? Sometimes government can be very difficult to navigate, very confusing, even for someone in government. Sometimes I'm sure you've experienced, you're like, oh my goodness, who is the point of contact here? Definitely. And so we really take pride in connecting folks and then following up. Right? We know it's sort of almost like case management with certain things, and that stuff's really important because it makes a difference in people's lives.
In the spirit of unity, seeing that you mentioned, how essentially it takes a village in Anne Arundel County to make sure everybody's supported. How does that look like at the legislative level? In your relationship with the county government in providing, sort of the advocacy for some of the initiatives that you guys see.
Well, with the legislative matters, we absolutely contribute with partners. So some agencies may be rolling out a new initiative or new policy or looking to update language. We serve sort of as that in-house, I don't know if you want to say policy wonk, but person who kind of reviews it and provides input on behalf of the community based on the data that we have from like the census or other reports that have come out in the county, as well as community feedback.
We like to talk about sort of the online and the in-person methods that are used to connect with the community. I see that you say about attending churches, back to school meetings, things of that nature, which are very much needed to make sure the presence of these organizations are known by the community. On the online level, which it seems to be a very prominent way to connect, what is your office doing to really make sure they're connecting with the community and hearing their concerns online?
Well, we're a big supporter of technology. We definitely think that incorporating both are equally important. So right now our office has a Facebook page and an Instagram page where we update on community resources, as well as events that we host, other partners' events, and then places that we're up to, right? I think we want to use our platform to highlight the work that people were doing because we know they put so much effort into it. We also have a weekly newsletter that we send out, one in English and one in Spanish, to ensure it's accessible. And because our office has that multicultural component, we want to make sure all our residents have access to the information we're sharing, because we realize as much as we want to connect communities in need to the resources, it's equally as important for others to also know what's going on when it comes to the cultural aspect. It's always a learning opportunity, and that really, to your point of uniting us, we have more in common than sometimes we think or know. And so we use every opportunity that we have, whether it's technology on social media or an electronic newsletter or through an in-person meeting, to really highlight that and really demonstrate that multicultural, multiracial coalitions are possible, and that makes us stronger as a whole.
I cannot stress this enough. I mean, it really does take a village. In highlighting what it seems, is a lot of work that you do for the Anne Arundel community. What are some of the events that we can expect directly from your office in Anne Arundel? What are some of the things that we can expect to see you guys announce that you are developing?
So when it comes to events, we have a lot going on. As you know, Hispanic Heritage Month, there's always plenty going on. So plenty that our partners are doing that we share on the social media. So we definitely advise your viewership to check it out. But from our office directly, we host bi-monthly business roundtable meetings. So we host one with the Latino community. We're hosting one with our African diaspora community next week. And those are really important because the county hosts these sort of in general spaces. We recognize that there are times where our community feels more comfortable in a space that feels like home, where they feel like they're surrounded with folks that they know, or it's in a language that they're comfortable in, with cuisine that they're familiar with. And so we try as much to create those safe places, and then to bring county agencies to those to provide the resource. We're also really excited for our inaugural Hispanic Heritage Month Award ceremony, which is taking place October 10th at 5:30 p.m. at Live Casino and Hotel. And so we hope you'll come out. We hope your viewership will come out. It'll be a great, it's going to be a beautiful night to highlight local Latino leaders, both rising stars as well as legacy leaders. So folks who have been in the county doing the work on the ground for 30 plus years, and some who are just starting. And that's the beautiful thing, right? Where you have to recognize the shoulders that you're standing on. And this is such a great opportunity to also build those intergenerational relationships and learn from one another, because there's so much to learn regardless of where you fall on the age range, or if you're Latino, if you're from a different culture. We always can learn something from each other.
Well, I congratulate you on all of the success that you're having in really making sure that you have an intentional impact on the community. Moving on to a more serious tone, based on all the work that you're doing, based on all these events, based on all this outreach that you're doing, what are some just general issues, whether it's, education, whether it's, language access, whether it's healthcare, what are some of the main issues that you see that you want to highlight, and address a little bit more in Anne Arundel?
That's a difficult question, because I find that a lot of these issues are all so closely intertwined. And we don't live in separate worlds where, I go to school and then I go home and, it's boxed like that. Everything's so connected. And so I would say that the two areas that we're most focused on is economic mobility. We know that people can't advance if they can't pay the bills, if they can't keep a roof over their heads and their families, if they can't put food on the table. That is absolutely an important priority, which is not just being able to pay for things, but also being able to thrive, to save up, and to maybe become a business owner, open up a business, and create that generational wealth. And then the second part of that is social inclusion. I would say those are two areas. And social inclusion, because having a sense of belonging is critically important. It affects your mental health, your overall health, and how civically engaged you will be, and how empowered to navigate government or to ask a question and approach government. So I would say that those two areas are our priorities, and those to me are kind of like the umbrella that include other sectors like education, workforce development, business within the economic mobility and social inclusion.
Grabbing a sort of, population that encapsulates both spaces a little bit. It comes to mind the different fastly growing small Latino-owned businesses in Anne Arundel County. What is some of the support that your office is providing to offices such as these that are may not be as stable as a business that has been around for 50 years, has 5 chain locations and something of that nature?
I appreciate that question a lot, because our small business owners contribute to our local economy and to our cultural tapestry, and so they're a critical component. And our office has that as a priority. So we host the business roundtables, where we bring agencies with the direct services and the resources directly to them, and connect them with key leadership folks so that they can have access to those. In the county executive launched this past Monday, actually, a PAVE, which is a sort of relaunch of how the county does procurement and increasing access to minority-owned, women-owned, and veteran-owned businesses. And to your point, that's super important, because if you're a company and you have been successful, you've been around for 5-10 years, and you're going up against a company that's been around for 60 to 80 years, that's been passed down through generation, it's going to be very difficult to compete with a company like that. And so the county executive, this is one of his priorities, and certainly ours as well, is how do we make our small minority-owned businesses more competitive? And so this new sort of launch and rebranding will offer those businesses the support they need, as well as thinking of collaborations, right? Maybe your company can't do the bid completely, but you can partner with others so that you're all successful and you start to get that experience, build that experience, and then maybe reach a point where you get a multi-million-dollar company contract with either the county, the state, or the federal level. And so the opportunities are limitless, and we're certainly passionate about promoting the information, connecting folks, and having one-on-ones. And we've done that multiple times, right, where people have a question and we're like, okay, we're gonna connect you with the really smart folks in this county who can break it down for you into manageable pieces so you don't get overwhelmed with the process. Because the process can be scary and intimidating. And so I think breaking it down step by step and us being able to serve as that bridge, both either if it's language or cultural, on both ends, we're very much committed to doing that.
Well, it seems like you're offering a lot of very quality constituent services to the community of Anne Arundel. Again, as you had mentioned at the beginning, you're essentially, pioneering this office almost. What do you want to see from this office, in 5-10 years? How do you want this to, I guess, move forward in, benefiting the Latino and Hispanic communities of Anne Arundel?
Well, we're very excited for the office to have been created. We love to see the office grow and remain as different administrations come in, because we realize that it's really important to have this perspective in county government and really at all levels of government. You need folks who understand the complexities of people's lives and understanding that people have different experiences, and those are really important. I also want to mention our big project, which is the county's first multicultural community center. We received $5 million from the state for this fiscal year, and so we're starting that process. We'd love to see that multicultural center become a very welcoming place, one that provides services, and we're excited to hear from residents on the things they would like to see in the space, the design, but also to sort of create a hub of histories, of the diversity and the work that communities have done for many years and many decades in Anne Arundel County. And so we're really excited to elevate those voices and those stories.
Well, congratulations. I mean, that sounds like a very exciting project for Anne Arundel County, and we look forward to seeing more from what's going to come out of that. Now moving on, I want to highlight your opinion on sort of an initiative that you want to highlight that you feel needs a bit more attention from the community, that you think could really use being more talked about amongst the Anne Arundel Latino and Hispanic population.
Thank you for the question, Jason. I would say that in my opinion, language access would be one of those items that I think is like two steps to it, right? One is building that public awareness so that residents know that they can access and they can request from the agencies the information in a language that they feel most comfortable communicating in, whether that's Spanish for a Latino community, whether that's an indigenous language, Korean, a different language that they can and they have the right to request that information. And I think the second part is probably one of the more long-term is always, change is always difficult and transitions are always difficult. And so I think building awareness too internally of the very technical skills that you need to be an interpreter. And so language access was passed in the county, I want to say 2 to 3 years ago. It was spearheaded, and that was done by one of my colleagues in the director of the Office of Equity and Human Rights. And so they do phenomenal work, and I know that it took them a lot to pass this law. I think now it's sort of up to collaborating to really elevate the importance of the law both internally and externally.
So when it comes to, sort of managing the long-term aspect of this, how do you see yourself, sort of escalating this, kind of bringing it up to the attention of, I guess, we would say like the county government, seeing if maybe at a state level, we can have some sort of initiative for that?
I believe a lot in partnership. I don't think anything great can be done alone. In a program that I want to highlight that's done by our community college, Anne Arundel Community College, they recently launched a certified interpreter program. So at their community college, it's, I believe, 8 weeks, and you get the skills you need to properly interpret and translate, because it is a job and it is a skill. And so it's a phenomenal initiative that the community college has that we're really excited to promote. Our school system requires it of all of their bilingual facilitators to have the certification. And so we're really hoping that our county government will embrace this program and that we'll have certified interpreters and translators as well in our county government infrastructure. And I think with the state, there's a lot of opportunity to sort of explore. So when someone graduates and is certified, is there an opportunity for them to get some experience at the state level? We certainly know that when you guys are really busy and ramped up and there's, a bunch of bills and, residents want to come and give their testimony because they're residents of the state of Maryland and they also deserve to have their voices heard. We know that can also be a challenge sometimes. And so we're really excited to sort of explore the possibilities to partner and to increase access, right? We want to ensure our residents feel heard. We also want to ensure that others that may not speak that language are also fully able to connect and communicate with that person as well. So it goes both ways. It's a win-win for everyone.
And a program like this, we talk a lot about the political side and how it would be, beneficial to give the community a voice in advocating, for example, at a state level, at a county level. But you mentioned also in education, how they already have that standard. It comes to mind, for example, how this would also benefit in the medical side of things. Is there any demand for that you see that in Anne Arundel for that translation sort of equity when it comes to the medical field as well?
Well, I don't want to say absolutes. I'm certainly not in the medical field, so I'm not on the ground every day. But I will say that it's a high demand service. And so I can imagine that in a lot of spaces where you want to absolutely ensure that you're receiving the correct information, that you're understanding it, and that you're also then able to communicate your message across, and that the receiving party, like your doctor, fully understands your symptoms, and that you understand the doctor's recommendations or like next steps to take care of your health. I think that's a great example of something that you want to have an interpreter who is qualified and familiar with medical language, right? Interpreting is not just being bilingual. It is a skill set that is learned, that it's trained and tested. And then when it comes to certain fields, the medical field, the legal field, it's also very technical language that we may not even know in our own language. And so it's really important that you have someone who has a really good grasp of both languages and has those certifications, because there are liabilities, for all governments, not just Anne Arundel or the state of Maryland, but when we look at the nation, we want to ensure that in those spaces where people's lives can pivot in many directions, that they don't pivot in the wrong direction because of a misunderstanding between languages.
Exactly. Well, demonstrating again the clear need for an understanding with the community, just to sort of grasp a better understanding on this, what are, some of the ways that the community can also help your office in some of this work? How can they get involved and support you as well?
I would say for them to consider joining our Immigrant Affairs Commission. We do a lot of work there, and we review different projects as well as collaborate. Attend one of our events, reach out, volunteer with us. We are in the process of becoming a certified welcoming county, and so there's a lot of opportunity to give input on programs or policies that would make our government more accessible and welcoming to our Latino and our immigrants, and really to all residents because we all, we don't live sort of segmented lives or lives by borders. We are all really interconnected, and so it's really important that we all feel a sense of belonging.
Well, as a final closing message, is there anything that you would want to, sort of communicate, to the viewers, sort of as a final message that aligns with, what you wish you could tell the, Anne Arundel community if you had them like in the room right now?
If everyone's in the room, I would tell them to reach out to us, to use us, to let us serve you as a bridge. If you have a question, there's no question that is, we may not have the answer, but we will certainly find the folks or the agency, the nonprofit that do, and to become civically involved, right? We don't have to be citizens to participate in our community, and that's really what we want to emphasize, is that we want everyone to feel comfortable giving their opinion, because they're also contributing to our economy, they contribute to our schools, they run our PTAs, and they're kids, and then they're the next generation of leaders, and so we want everyone to feel included. We want to hear from them and know that they can count on us, and as a resource for governments, and if they need a referral to something else, we're more than happy to kind of break down those barriers and help them navigate.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Alison, so much for being here with us today. And we want to wish you a happy Hispanic Heritage Month.
Thanks so much, Jason. Feliz mes de la herencia hispana.